Brandon Warne is back with us to talk Carlos Correa, the shortstop market, starting pitching. So much coming up. We are reunited on today's episode of Locked On Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome to the Locked On Minnesota Twins podcast, here with Brandon Warne today on a special off-season episode. Today's episode is brought to you by Bet Online. Bet Online has you covered with season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. Bet Online is where the game starts. The loyal Locked On Twins listeners know that Brandon and I, after almost every Twins game, did a postcast this season. We had some highs, we had some lows, we had some ejections, but we had a lot of fun. And Brandon's back today. How are you?
I'm not doing too bad, and the ejections weren't us, which is good. But I think a couple times we got heated enough to merit an ejection if they knew what kind of heat we were bringing. But it's good to be back, and it's fun to discuss what still looks like it's going to be a pretty adventurous offseason for your Twins.
Got to start with the main topic, the man, Brandon. What is your feeling today in this moment? I know it comes and goes on Carlos Correa.
Slight pessimism, but at the same time, we also felt slight pessimism going into the 2019-20, or coming out basically of the offseason into 2020 on Josh Donaldson, and then all of a sudden Mark Feinsand tweets at like 6 p.m. one night that the deal happened. So I don't know. I think it'll either sneak up on us or it's going to be something that just blows up, and the tweets are going to be ugly if they don't get him. But I think they still have a path to a pretty good offseason without him.
We've discussed Correa like during the season. We would talk about him all the time, and especially later in the year started to talk about what a potential extension would look like. But my next question for you, Brandon, is I think I know the first part. I know the answer to the first part. Should the Twins offer Carlos Correa $300 million? And maybe more importantly, do you think $300 million is going to be enough? We saw Xander Bogaerts gets $280 over 11, which I think was shocking for a lot of people, certainly me. Trey Turner got $300. Is $300 even going to be enough for Carlos Correa?
It's going to be close. I think Boris is going to ask for like $350. I think it'll come down. I'm thinking it probably settles in that maybe $310, $315, maybe $320. But I think it's going to have to be at least $300. And will the Twins go there on 10 years? Will he want more years? Will he want more AAV? Will he want a combination of both? Is anybody else offering that? There's a lot of questions that need to be answered. And I don't even know where you start. I think what's going to happen is someone in The Athletic is going to have a really nice long form story about how the negotiations went, regardless of what happens.
I'll be super interested to hear either way, whether it's with the Twins, without the Twins. Dan Hayes and Aaron Gleeman, or I guess Dan came out with it on Monday. Little scoop or maybe a leak or maybe a little bit of both that the Twins are open to trading Luis Arraez, which I think was a surprise to some. For you and I, we follow this every single day. I don't think it was as much of a surprise for me. How did you feel about that? And how do you feel about trading Luis Arraez?
I mean, I didn't think they were going to be said out loud, but I think the implication is unless you are a superstar on this team, and right now they don't really have any, anybody can be in conversations. Now, does that mean that Luis Arraez has appeared in more conversations than, say, Jose Miranda this offseason? I don't know that that's true, because maybe 5 teams have called about Miranda, and there's just 1 or 2 who would be really focused on Arraez. But for me, Arraez and his skill set, while tantalizing, is a prime candidate for me to move if you can get something you don't have on this current team. And, I don't know if another number 2 starter qualifies as something, or if it has to be an ace for it to make sense. In that case, you're building on the deal. He's pretty much a positionless man who can really hit, but doesn't give you much power, doesn't walk quite as much as you'd like, and doesn't really lefties that well. And we saw what he did down the stretch last year too. When the bat's not working, he doesn't do much.
We did see that in the second half, and the legs and the knees, and I understand the flip side of that. I also understand a lot of people say don't trade Luis Arraez. He's my favorite player. He's my favorite Twin to watch. He's universally beloved by Twins territory. So I understand both sides. I'll switch it to this, Brandon, because they both have 3 years of team control, and Arraez is a little bit cheaper, but I don't think it's going to be crazy different. Jorge Polanco, Luis Arraez, both, second baseman, I would say. Luis played first last year down the stretch. But if you were given the chance, if there was a deal out there for Pablo Lopez or Zach Gallen, if that was possible, and the other guys were involved, just straight up cut everything away, would you trade Jorge Polanco or Luis Arraez if given the choice, both with 3 years of team control?
It'd be Arraez for me just because he can't play shortstop whatsoever. And we know Polanco's not great shakes over there, but there's really no reason to play second, third, or short in a pinch. And I've seen some of the looks of Arraez's numbers in StatCast at third base. They were pretty ugly. Now, small sample
Awful
size caveats and that, but it was Arraez bad. So just due to positional scarcity of a shortstop, it's Polanco. I think he's a more complete player. And I don't know, man. When I have a big plate appearance for a Twins hitter, I think right now Polanco, assuming maybe they bring Correa back, he gets into the conversation. But I want Polanco up there. His blood pressure seems to stay low. His heart rate stays low, and he does a good job of not letting them get too big. So I like Polanco a lot. I'd keep him for sure.
I do too, and he was so good in 2021. Wonder a little bit about the age gap there. Luis Arraez 25. I think Polo's 29. I believe
that
he
sounds
just
right.
turned 29. Yeah, 29 or 30. So it's a good question, though. I think it's something to think about. And I think some people would be like, well, of course, I would trade Jorge Polanco, and I would understand that. And then others, I think you and I think me included, like I would have to think about it a little further. But top of my head, it's Arraez.
Yeah, I mean, you could cite Polanco making more money, and you could Polanco being older, valid things to say. I like that Polanco is so you get a little more plate coverage or better plate coverage, mostly left-handed right now. But yeah, there's not really a wrong answer. It's not like you're asking if you'd rather trade, Miguel Sano or Jose Miranda a few months ago.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a pretty easy way to say that you could justify either one of them moving.
We've seen a lot of deals at the winter meetings. Brandon, what's one free agent deal you would have liked the Twins to sign?
I gotta say it's 11 years and under, was it under 300 or was it right at 300? I'm all over that. I know he's going to age probably pretty poorly specs, but he's just such a dynamic player right now. But that feels like too easy of an answer. So I will go with Wilson Contreras. To me, that was a perfectly reasonable price to pay for a catcher. You put it in comparison with guys like Yasmani Grandal, even Russell Martin many years ago. Catching prices tend to be reasonable just because they don't play every day. So it's Contreras for me. I thought it was a perfectly reasonable deal. I thought some of the pitching deals, quite a bit more than I would have given. So for me right now, it's Contreras.
Thought about Taijuan Walker, Jameson Taillon, but I agree. Like they got paid the big bucks, and maybe it'll pay off for those clubs. But I thought of Contreras as well. I think that would be my answer. And then maybe Taijuan. I mean, who would you have chosen between? They basically made the same amount of money. I think Taillon got 4 for 68, and Taijuan got 4 for 72. So who would you have invested in if the Twins were in on one of those guys?
Taillon, just because I've had to do a lot of writing about Walker job, and I feel like he's just prone catches and just doesn't quite have the ability to get out of that, like number 4 starter mold, number maybe 3. I still believe in Taillon, and again, they're both pretty much finished products as far as development. But for me, Taillon just has a little bit more of a gear to get to, whereas Walker, he'll have these weird splits. Like he'll be 2 ERA in the first half and 6 in the second half. And so his final end of the season ERA is 4, and you're like, that doesn't really make any sense. So I'm leaning on Jameson Taillon, but it's not by a whole ton or anything.
We have some clarity on the free agent market. Brandon, what does your ideal, maybe a offseason plan look like for the Twins from this point forward?
So I have kind of 2 different ones. A is probably Correa trading for a starting pitcher, signing a catcher, and then Luke Voigt at first base. Narvaez is my guy behind the plate, but the rumors of Vasquez are certainly not upsetting. If Mike Zunino can throw, he's in that mix for me too. So what I'm thinking, A is probably like Narvaez, Voigt. If they go free agency route for a pitcher, it's not going to be anybody much better than like, who's out there even? I'm trying to think of guys who are probably going to get like 8 million, 10 million for 1 year,
Your deals.
Kyle Gibson type.
Right.
So I think I would trade
Lyles.
Yeah, Jordan Lyles. I think actually that's why I included in my article today. Who doesn't do anything for me. And so a lot of it's tied up in what pitcher can you get off free agency if you sign Dansby Swanson as opposed to Carlos Correa?
Right.
Or what other improvements do you make with the difference? And if you do Dansby and say Syndergaard or Bassett, both of whom I'm totally cool with, and then you go catcher, first base, then maybe one reliever like an Archie Bradley type. To me, that's the A+ ideal. So I would say Correa. I guess I keep talking on myself, but my biggest issue is you could, in theory, sign Correa and trade for Pablo Lopez, and that's like your A++ off season. In addition to what I would say is adding a catcher, I'd like a right-handed bat again. Luke Voigt, I keep coming back to, but I also wonder about Jurickson Profar and the whole Texas Rangers connection with Levine. But basically, shortstop, starting pitcher, first base, catcher, and then one reliever. I'm thinking of adding 5 guys. But I really like Dansby Swanson since breaking him down today on Access Twins. So if he can jump in there with a better starting pitcher, I think that could swing my vote. But I think I've just kept talking to not come to a specific decision.
Well, I'll ask you this, Brandon. If you could either have Dansby Swanson for, let's say, 160, whatever that's going to be, and Carlos Rodon, or Carlos Correa and a Nathan Eovaldi, what package are you taking there if you had a choice?
Yeah, it's got to be Swanson and Rodon for me. The thing I come back to though is if Swanson gets, I deal 7/175, so 25 per. Are the Twins willing to stretch the budget to get Rodon at 30 per? 55 Correa and Eovaldi? Yeah, you're probably 55. If they're both possible, I'm definitely going with Swanson and Rodon, just because Rodon does things that are just ridiculous. The Twins don't have anybody in the organization who can do. I think maybe Prelup is a little bit is hurt, but no, Rodon and Swanson for me, but they'll leak quite a bit.
It's December 8th, Brandon, and Max Kepler is still on the roster. And I know I don't remember if you said that you thought he would be traded. I've definitely said I think he's going to be traded. But has your view of that changed? That question, is Max Kepler going to be on the opening day roster?
It's tough to say just because, when guys like Mitch Haniger are signing right now, they're getting plenty of money. Is Mitch Haniger a better player than Max Kepler? In a lot of respects, yes, but Kepler's defense a little bit. And then there's the expected, can that get Kepler back to a, let's say, a 110 weighted crew thing? In that case, the Twins would probably be selling lower right now, which they're not really going to want to do. Would that space with a right-handed hitter and let off in Larnach kind of bad time. A lot of questions stem, but for me, I think Kepler still got 1 foot out. For me, it's still feel like maybe a 55-45 or a 60-40 that he gets traded, just because if it clears a little bit of money, every bit's going to count when they're wooing not to go to trade.
Brandon Warne, do you believe the Twins have a bright future? It's a tough question.
I do, honestly. And I it's funny, if you get accused of being too positive or too negative, you're definitely a member of Twins. Accused of being both, that's pretty brutal. But I think this team is immensely talented, and if this trainer fellow from Oakland can cut their IL days, even because I think Oakland had half as many this year. They'll improve just by the sheer fact that you'll be getting more plate appearances from guys who aren't Jake Cave or whoever. It's aren't Sandy Leone. So I still think this team is immensely talented. They're going to get Kenta back, probably in a bullpen role. Looks like Griffin Jax is thrown this winter. I think I saw you comment on that. No, I believe in the talent level of this team. It's just they didn't stay healthy. And do I have any to believe they can this year? No. I'm still going to choose to believe it. But we haven't seen the best of Tyler Mallow. We definitely haven't seen the best of Jorge Lopez. I'm excited because I still believe in some too. Edward Julian, he almost seems like an Oswaldo Arcia who can actually play the field or something. I like this farm system. I still do. And I know people don't nationally or even necessarily locally, but I believe they have a bright future. It's going to be hard to chase down Cleveland, Detroit, and Kansas City in the future. But I also think that Cleveland had one of the most lucky seasons of all time. So some things should even out here in 2023, and I'm excited to see it.
Brandon mentioned Griffin Jax. There was a video from Driveline. He's working at Driveline. Always excited to see a Twins pitcher working at Driveline, but it was like almost a pull down with a gray ball. I don't know the termage, but he threw it 100 miles an hour, and it was exciting. And I think I said this a couple of weeks ago when I was doing his season in review. He's one of my 2023 extra breakout picks. We saw Luis Arraez kind of have a second breakout this year.
Yeah.
I would say Griffin Jax is due for that because you look at runners in scoring position versus nobody on base. It's this stark split. I think he's due for some positive regression, and I just think another year in the bullpen, that experience is going to help him. So who's your early 2023 breakout pick, Brandon?
Can it be someone who has broke will do it again, or do you want someone who hasn't? I think Jose Miranda really turns a corner and is a 800 and something OPS, 25 homer, maybe not middle of the bat, but lower middle, fifth, sixth in the order kind of bat. Is his future at first or third? I'm kind of thinking first, just because, maybe Royce third, maybe Royce Lewis plays second. And then in that case, Miranda plays third, but they have a lot of guys for not a lot of spots. So I think Miranda's position is will he just be able to focus on hitting then and getting a little bit tighter around the bag if he can? Very special hitter, and there's a reason why he's still in this organization when they long could have traded him a go for pitching.
I'm excited about him too. I mean, we were excited about him last year. Sometimes we were speechless in the middle of that stretch where he was just incredible with scoring position. And go ahead.
Yeah, should be in the conversation too. I don't know how much he'll get to pitch in terms of stretching him back out. But if he's healthy, they're not going to expect him to be anything more than probably fifth or sixth on the bullpen hierarchy unless he deserves it or earns it. But very special arm. And so hopefully he's healthy, knock on wood, because they're going to need every bit of it.
I was going to do a deep dive on him. And Trevor McGill's still in this bullpen, Brandon. So the flame coming out of there, if Alcala's healthy, throw it 98 to 100, you got about 5 or 6 guys who can do so, which we've never seen that in Twins history.
I'm curious, where's McGill on your 40-man roster? If they chop 4 guys and sign 4 guys, I mean, McGill's probably pretty close to that 4 for the Twins, but
I was going to say 37.
Yeah, he's probably about right there. But you look at the stuff, they've had success kind of reclaiming guys like Matt McGill was pretty decent for a while. And they had Oliver Drake for a half a minute. To me, McGill screams he could take the next step. Maybe he ends up being the second coming of Jim Hoey, just throwing the crap out of the ball and getting pasted. But I saw enough this year that I would give him another shot. I'd probably trust him more than Emilio Pagan right now, which is pretty sad to say. But if those are the 2 front guys on your bullpen, you're doing okay.
Alex Kirilloff's going to be one of my breakout picks every year, just because I'll always be a believer in his bat. Brandon, how optimistic are you? We heard last week from Rocco during the winter meetings, things sound like they're going really well, but we've heard that before. I guess it's cautious optimism. Where are you on the Alex Kirilloff train?
Yeah, I mean, I was the high man on him, and I called him Baby Votto for a few years before he had a couple years off due to surgery and all that. But I'm a big believer in the bat. I think he'll hit lefties well enough to play every day. I don't know what his power numbers will look like. If it'll be 40 doubles, 20 homers, 30 doubles, 30 homers, or, something completely different. But I'm a big believer in the bat. It's a skill set that's not going to cost a ton of money just because he's a corner guy. But, he's gonna be a vital piece of this offense if they're going to do anything this year. I believe that wholeheartedly.
Kirilloff, Miranda, if they can stay healthy together, like 5-6 in the order, and if you find a way to bring back Correa or sign Swanson, I could see
And then Larnach.
And Larnach, I could see like you're saying, I could see the offense. It's not hard to see things going well.
This is why I'm not down on the team. Everybody's down on them because of what they did last year, and I get that. But you have to look and assess the talent level. And it's been a long time since they've had this much talent on the roster. The problem was, again, they couldn't stay healthy and keep the guys on the field. Had they stayed on the field, I mean, they're right there with Cleveland. I think they're more talented than Cleveland. And if people want to rip that, I'll take the heat. But I believe in the talent of this organization right now. The Baseball America top 10 just came out, and the top 10 was top to bottom still, again, solid, even with guys like Encarnacion Strand traded, Spencer Steer traded, and Austin Martin not even in the top 10 coming off his Arizona Fall League. So team is talented, and I think they got a few spare parts to really bring things into focus in terms of, maybe Kepler or whoever, Rise. They're going to make some noise. I still believe in this offseason being a very good one. It just has been about as frigid as it is outside where you and I are right now.
Twins, I think one of 4 teams to not yet make a free agent move, but it feels like we say that every offseason. It's like
By the way, if you have a second, we can talk about them getting them because what an incredible amount of fortune to move up. That probably negates all the bad luck the Timberwolves had back in the day before you were born, when they would miss out on guys like Morning and Larry Johnson because the lottery didn't like them. Could you imagine Shaq in Minnesota? I mean, Kevin Garnett would be just an also ran.
Shaq.
But anyway, that pick is going to be great.
Yes, that's a top 5 pick. That's awesome. Anytime you get a top 5 pick, it's exciting. Yeah, Brooks Lee with the 8th pick. Like, think about adding a Brooks Lee level talent to this farm system. That's, I mean, maybe even more in the 5th pick. That's it's super exciting.
Yeah, and top 5 is going to be a talent pretty much no matter what. Even Nick Gordon pitch, he could throw, he could hit. They thought he'd put on some bulk. Top 5 pick, man. That's.
Hey, Nicky's part of the team now. He's a key part of the squad. You never know. Brandon, thank you so much.
I jersey back here. Did you see that? I literally bought his jersey, and I'm going to get it autographed if I can get admitting I was wrong.
I love that. Brandon, congrats to you on your new baby. Congrats to your family. Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure every single time, and we'll have you on again soon. The people are going to be happy that Brandon's back, and thank you again.